Welcome back to Outside Views, and today we're taking a long, hard look at the men in number 10 and asking the question that should be keeping every Democrat awake at night. What is Keir Starmer actually doing to push back the populists? And my personal view is that the answer is nowhere near enough. And we are currently watching a slow-motion car crash where the establishment is being outrun, outfought, and outmessaged by Nigel Farage and the populist right. We're now in January 2026 and the political landscape of the UK is looking like a scene from a disaster movie for the mainstream left. A new YouGov poll from late 2025 has Keir Starmer's net favourability at a staggering minus 54, which is almost identical to Boris Johnson on the day he was forced to resign. And meanwhile, Nigel Farage is sitting on a massive £9 million war chest and is currently leading Starmer in head-to-head polling on who would make a better prime minister. And my view is that the honeymoon didn't just end. It turned into a bitter divorce before the first year was even over. And the vacuum is being filled by a populist surge that is better organized than anything we have seen in decades. And I believe that Keir Starmer is fundamentally misdiagnosing the threat here, treating it like a legal argument he can win with sober warnings, and that all while the house is literally on fire. And the reality on the ground in 2026 is that the public's anger has moved from the ballot box to the cultural arena, and it is getting ugly. Just look at what happened at the Darts World Championship at the Ali Pali on New Year's Day. You know that I'm always following that and see every match there. The crowd wasn't just singing about the game. They were chanting Keir Starmer is a wanker so loudly that Sky News had to literally censor the broadcast with artificial crowd noise. And when a professional player like Ryan Searle starts conducting the crowd in anti-government chants during a quarterfinal, you know you have a legitimacy crisis. And my personal view is that when the broadcaster has to acoustically censor the public's dislike of the Prime Minister, the government has already lost the room. It shows a public that feels ignored, disrespected, and frankly bored by a government that promised change but has delivered nothing but managed decline. And the most devastating critique of Starmer's non-strategy has come from within his own camp, from the legendary New Labour strategist Chris Powell. Writing in The Guardian last week, Powell warned that Starmer needs a fundamental reset, and he doesn't mean the one with the EU, because he is currently a textbook case of an establishment party caught in the headlights. And Powell, who helped Tony Blair win in 1997, is warning that the next general election, which could be less than 3 years away, will be no ordinary contest. His view, which I share completely, is that populists like Farage represent an existential threat to democracy itself. Populists work on the principle that we only have to win once, and once they are in, they begin to dismantle the institutions that might remove them, from the judiciary to the media. I mean, guys, you know Trump. And we see this playbook from Viktor Orban in Hungary to Donald Trump in the US, and Chris Powell is absolutely right to be terrified that it is coming to Britain too. And yet, where's the counterplan? It's simply not there. And my personal view is that Starmer's biggest mistake is his obsession with conventional niceties and, to be honest, dull competence. He spent 2025 trying to be the adult in the room, but in a room full of shouting populists, the person whispering about fiscal rules just looks weak. And the outside view is that Starmer is fighting a 20th century political war with 19th century tools. Not even to talk about the 21st century stuff that's coming. Because Reform UK is dominating social media, and there we are in the 21st century, while Labour's digital presence has been described as small-scale and fragmented. Yes, we've seen a few Starmer videos on TikTok lately, but they feel like you're a dad trying to use slang. It's awkward, it's late, and it's not working. And while Farage is using an emotionally driven media machine to speak to people's pain, Starmer is giving lectures on the soul of the country. And I believe that if you want to defeat a populist, you have to fight fire with fire on messaging, calling out their lies instantly and exposing their simplistic snake oil solutions. And I even blame my own party for not managing that very well here in Germany. And Chris Powell and his colleague David Cohen have proposed a 3-point plan for Labour to survive, and it's a no-holds-barred approach. First, they say Starmer must adopt a ruthless rebuttal mindset and stop worrying about being polite. Second, he needs to change how he talks to people, speaking plain language on bread and butter issues like the Kentucky governor Andy Beshear. And third, and most importantly, Labour needs a total media overhaul, a semi-autonomous digital narrative unit that wages a daily war for attention. And the goal is simple. When a voter scrolls through their phone, the populist narrative must not be the only one they hear. And we need a move from a national air war of TV interviews to a permanent hyper-local ground war modeled on Stacey Abrams' success in Georgia. And my view is that unless Labour starts listening, acting and communicating at the local level every single day, they will be wiped out in the May 7th elections. And the irony of 2026 is that Starmer's reset on Europe, finally talking about a closer relationship, is being used as fuel for reform. Because Starmer has been so timid about admitting that Brexit was a disaster, he has allowed Farage to own the narrative of betrayal. And my personal view is that you cannot beat populism by triangulating with it or by being reform light. When you adopt your opponent's language on migration or sovereignty, you don't steal their voters, you just validate their arguments. And voters will always choose the original over the copy. And Labour is currently defending a majority of the seats in the May local and Senate elections, and if they suffer the heavy losses that are currently predicted, Starmer's leadership will be in total freefall. Internal briefing wars have already started, with names like Angela Rayner and Andy Burnham being whispered as potential replacements. And the outside view is that Keir Starmer is currently a prime minister who is listening but not hearing. He raises a glass to the new year while his party is polling at 18%, third place behind the Conservatives and a resurgent Reform UK. The year of the Starmer never happened. Instead, 2025 was the year the public realized that dull isn't the same thing as competent. The populists are winning because they offer a vision, however toxic, while the government offers a to-do list. And unless there is a top-to-bottom overhaul of how Labour communicates, the May elections will be the beginning of the end for this administration. Democracy is a tram that populists will ride until they reach their destination, and right now, Keir Starmer is just standing on the platform, checking his watch. The existential threat is at the door, and the man inside is still trying to figure out which tie to wear. Took me 5 seconds this morning, by the way.